July the 27th. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for a roll call.
Councilmember Abdelgawad.
Here.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Circo.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we move forward, I did want to remind everybody that tonight we have a different setup here, as you see in the room, trying to obtain the social distancing rules, and we still would ask you to wear masks. If you feel better when you speak of taking the mask off, we have socially distanced here, so that I'm sure that would be just fine if you're uncomfortable with talking into the microphone with the mask on. So with that said, we're going to be in this setup for a while, and I just kind of wanted to set the stage for that. We have no personal appearances or presentations and awards tonight. We'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would note that the normal reports for this evening from Public Works and Parks and Recreation are in your packet. If you have any questions on those, please feel free to either ask me this evening or email the department heads with questions regarding their reports. In lieu of those, I have asked Ms. Harmer and Mr. Murdoch to come this evening to supplement those reports with reports on next week's no tax increase bond issue and the current COVID-19 situation in Cass County. I would therefore at this time ask Ms. Harmer to make a report on the bond issue.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I do have a quick couple items to share before that. First, the fall issue of the review is in progress. It feels like the summer issue just came out and we really just got it a few weeks ago, but we are starting on putting the fall issue together. I'll be working on that for the next few weeks, and our residents can look forward to getting that in the mail at the beginning of September. Also, I'm working with Chief Zimmerman to put all of the chapters of the Raymore Police Department Policies and Procedures Manual on our raymore.com website so that they can be accessed by anybody at any time. Chief Zimmerman and Captains Jim Wilson and Roger Mayberry are going through the manual chapter by chapter to make sure everything's up to date, and if the progress keeps going as smoothly as it has been, I think we might be able to have that web page ready by the end of next week. And now, finally, August 4th is right around the corner. Next Tuesday, Raymore voters will vote in the August primary election. The City of Raymore has question 1 and question 2 on the ballot. Both are no tax increase general obligation bond issues. Question 1 proposes more than $17.5 million in street improvements, and question 2 proposes just under $6 million in improvements to our Raymore Park system. I will be presenting information on the GEO bonds tomorrow at the Chamber of Commerce member luncheon at Centerview. Thank you for continuing to share this information with our residents leading up to August 4th. If anyone watching now wants more information on the bond issues before Tuesday, anyone can contact me or visit our raymore.com/bondprojects webpage. I know several of you will be at tomorrow's Raymore Farmers Market starting at 4 p.m. to answer any questions about the bond projects from any of our market goers. Some members of the park board, Assistant City Manager Mike Eakey, and I will be there as well, and we're happy to answer any questions anybody will have, and we'll have some printed material with us. So again, that's tomorrow from 4 to 7 p.m. at Municipal Circle right behind City Hall. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Melissa. Anybody have any questions for Melissa? Yes, Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Melissa, thank you for that great report. Could you remind anybody watching right now what the protocol is for folks attending the farmers market as far as vendors and customers for wearing of masks and things like that?
Wearing of masks is encouraged if you can't social distance, and that's about where we stand. That's just what we're asking people to do, is if it's going to be crowded, wearing a mask would be great, but keeping your distance from others would be excellent.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Anyone else? If not, I'll turn back over to Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Ms. Harmer. I would ask Mr. Murdoch to make a report on the current situation of COVID-19 in Cass County.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the rest of the City Council. I did want to give you all a brief update here on the pandemic, not only within Raymore, but within Cass County. Just 3 weeks ago, Cass County and the City of Raymore, if we had been looking at statistics, would have been doing pretty well in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, as many of you are aware, there have been a lot of recent large gatherings throughout the metropolitan area, including here in Cass County. Whether that was July 4th celebrations, graduations, parties, all of those kinds of events that have been going on in the summer have resulted in a pretty dramatic increase in positive cases, not only in the county, but also here in the city of Raymore. I do want to call our attention that the increases are not a direct result of an increased amount of testing that has been going on either within Cass County or within the metropolitan Kansas City area. The corresponding increase is much higher than the percent increase that we have been testing throughout the region. So while some of the increase could be attributed to an increase in testing, it's certainly not all of it, and I think we need to make sure that we're taking that into consideration. For the city of Raymore, it's important to note that in the first 4 months of the pandemic, we had 48 confirmed positive cases. In the last 27 days, we have 58. So I think that that is another statistic that we need to kind of keep in mind here. Throughout Cass County, we've also seen a dramatic increase in cases, not only in Raymore, but also in all of the other jurisdictions as well. Some of you are aware that we have seen 2 cases in very young kids here just within the last couple of days that were reported over the weekend. The average age of the positive cases throughout the county is also continuing to decrease. As we are seeing that go all the way down into the 40s. The average age of positive cases is now down into the 40s. For the entire state of Missouri, the average age of a positive case is now all the way down to 43 years old. And if we were just to factor in the last 7 days, that average is actually just 40 years old. That dashboard for the state of Missouri, where they're keeping track of those statistics, is updated every 24 hours. That data is not as readily available for Cass County, just from a true staffing standpoint of them trying to keep all of those different sites updated. Different data updated. They just don't have the staffing to keep it up to date every 24 hours. That's in terms of that much specificity. I can't even pronounce that word. Sorry. So a couple of quick things that we want to make sure that we're doing here within Raymore, since we are seeing a pretty big increase. And we are not unique, by the way, here in Cass County, Raymore. Anybody who is kind of watching this particular data, we know that this is going on throughout the entire Kansas City metropolitan area, both sides of the state line. We are not unique here in Cass County. We want to emphasize to our residents that we do need to continue to practice good hygiene. That is the washing of the hands. We need to stay socially distanced when possible, and we need to continue wearing face coverings, or our recommendation would be to continue wearing face coverings, especially when we can't socially distance. I want to stress that these mitigation measures, when we put them all together, that's our best defense. We can do one at a time, that's great, but when we can do all of them at the same time, that gives us our greatest chance of limiting the spread of COVID-19. We do also know that throughout Raymore, the majority of businesses are requiring people to wear masks to come in. That is a business decision at this particular time. As you all are aware, we do not have a county mandate or county ordinance or city ordinance for masks at this time, but the majority of businesses are requiring them. I do also want to make sure that the council is aware that every single day, pretty much, and definitely every single week, we are getting shifting guidelines, shifting information, and shifting data. Part of that is obviously a result of increasing knowledge about what COVID-19 is doing, not only in our region but across the country. And part of that is we continue to have more and more organizations that weigh in on what we should be doing as a result of COVID-19, whether it is the CDC, whether it is our State Department of Health and Senior Services, whether it's local health departments, county health departments, and then obviously city and elected officials are also weighing in on what we should be doing with COVID-19. What that has resulted in is, across the region, some confusion, obviously from patrons, citizens, as you travel from one jurisdiction to the next in terms of what is required and what is not. It also has resulted in some people not knowing where hotspots might be within each individual region, state, wherever people are traveling, and we still do have people traveling across the country on vacation, stuff like that, and then what requirements they might have coming back. So the team here in Raymore, meaning the staff team that does meet about COVID, we continue to meet to discuss these various recommendations that are coming in from different organizations, and we will continue to evaluate events and stuff like that that are going on within the city to make sure that we're making decisions that are in the best interests of the health of obviously our staff and then obviously of our residents as we go forward. That's my report for tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have in terms of the regional and local response.
Thank you, Ryan. Anyone have any questions? Yes, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for keeping us informed of what's going on. Appreciate your hard work. Question on when somebody gets tested and they tested positive, a lot of protocol now for employers is you've got to have a negative test to come back to work. And I heard this, you talk about information shifting and data shifting. Is it incorrect or correct if somebody tests positive, they wait a certain amount of time, test again positive, does that count as 2 or does that still count as 1?
So in terms of how we would calculate the number of people who have tested positive for COVID, they count it on unique tests, so unique cases. So a person who has gone back and tested again and maybe has tested positive a second time is not counted again in terms of the total number of cumulative cases. So it's unique positive cases is the way that that category is done. But they do, obviously, there are different guidelines in terms of return to work based on which organization you're following.
And I got a couple others.
Sure.
And do you have the data on how many people have been hospitalized and then how many people have died?
So I can give you the data specific to Cass County. So we've had 9 fatalities within the county, that we have not had a fatality now in just over a month, I believe. I'd have to go back and look at the exact date, but it's been quite some time since there's been a fatality here within Cass County. Currently, out of all of the active cases, and I think that that's an important distinction that we make here, there's been just over 500 cases within the county since the pandemic started. But there's obviously only a certain number of active cases that are currently going on. In the active cases within Cass County, we currently have 2 people that are hospitalized as a result of having COVID.
Do you have anything else, Kev? Said you had a couple of things. Nope, that was it? Okay. Anyone else have anything? Mr. Circo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have one question. You said all the increase of the testing, the positive, wasn't really contributing to the amount of more testing. It was above that, and would that mean that they're actually getting those numbers from people who are admitted to the hospitals more that way? Or you said this actually more than actually the testing wasn't really a factor there?
What I was saying is the driving factor, but in the massive's not the right word, in the dramatic increase in just total positive cases is more related to community transmission of COVID than just an increase in the number of tests that we're doing. So our percent positive rate of testing has gone up rather than us just seeing it stay flat and just increasing the total number of tests that we've done.
So that means that increase is probably coming from that, more of the testing too. More testing.
Some of the increase is coming from an increase in testing, but more people are also testing positive. So a good example would be if we had tested 10 people last month, the percent positive rate would have been 5. 5 out of 10 would have tested positive. If we were in that, excuse me, that's not, let me rephrase, let me get that percentage correctly. I'm really sorry about that. If we had tested 100 people, 5 people would have tested positive because the percent positive rate was about 5%. That is all the way up to 12% right now. So 12 out of every 100 people are testing positive now.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for the update. I appreciate the information. A question I hear a lot in this conversation, so just to clarify if you know the answer, the number of cases in Cass County is based on whether the person lives here, whether the person is tested here, or whether the person goes to the hospital here.
The answer is based on where you reside. So it is only, our number is based on where people, the people who actually live here within Cass County.
Anyone else? If not, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you. And in light of these, the numbers and the change in the numbers and the trend that we are seeing, we have been meeting, the recovery team has been meeting on a pretty regular basis to discuss specifically what, as a city, we are going to be doing relative to the larger gatherings that we have. One of the advantages, of course, of being able to meet here tonight and to permanently set this up this way is we were 3 nights a week, basically, we were unable to rent out Centerview. So we had to figure out something for there, and that'll be coming back to you all at budget time. I'll be mentioning that again, you'll hear, unfortunately. But with this setup and the ability to then transition back safely to our normal look here, it has opened up Centerview 3 nights a week, but we are being very cautious on a case-by-case basis of who we are renting Centerview out to. If it's a smaller group, a family gathering, that's one thing. If somebody says that they're going to have a 200-person graduation party over there, we're going to not allow those. To that end, we are currently looking at our large gathering events for Parks and Recreation. We have one coming up this Friday night, which is movie night in the park, and we have the Mud Run rushing at us as well. Currently using kind of the day that everybody is targeting now as the new date to take a look at things is Labor Day. So we're doing the same. We have also, so we're looking at that, and specifically relative to our September 11th. More inclined right now for through the end of August to be canceling events. Corinne has ways to supplement those events. She even has a way to supplement the Mud Run virtually. So if we can do that and avoid those larger gatherings of folks here, the same way Mr. Murdoch was indicating that the graduation ceremonies and the July 4th party have led to, we know have led to increases within the county, we want to be avoiding that same sort of repeat performance sponsored by the city of Raymore. The mayor took a question relative to renting out the shelters to larger groups. So far we've been lucky, the only request for shelters, and we would follow the same protocol as Centerview. We would rent shelters out to family gatherings, where last weekend they happened to be at in their backyard, but this weekend they kind of felt like they wanted to use one of the shelters. If it's a smaller family gathering, we would rent it out. If they're looking to have it for multiple groups or a group gathering at one of the shelters, we would not allow that. So that is the moving protocol. As you all have heard me say, Sunday's reality is not Saturday's reality anymore, and it changes that quickly. As of this morning, that's what we have in place. So you will probably be seeing very, very shortly, as early as tomorrow, that we are canceling both the Mud Run and movie night in the park for alternative events. Unfortunately, just before I came up here, I was at my grandson's house, and my grandson triumphantly told me that this afternoon his mom registered him off for the Mud Run, so I had to inform them early that Papa might have changed that particular plan of theirs. I'm the most popular person in the Ramirez house this evening. So those are some of the things that we are doing in response to this. And if council has any questions on those events or any of our other sponsored events, I'd be more than happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
As the council is aware, we do have a work session next Monday night, August 3rd. There are currently 2 items on the agenda. You will remember that last year we brought before the council, Community or Development Services brought before you all an MHDC application for Grant Park over on the east side for a senior living center, and they were looking for your approval and support of an application to the state for that particular project. They were not funded last year. They will be coming before you again on Monday night to repeat that request. You all did approve it last year. And then the mayor will have some board and commission appointments to be bringing before the council. That concludes staff reports this evening, sir.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. We'll move on along to the consent agenda. It is a fairly large agenda tonight with 9 items for consideration. So I would entertain a motion to dispose of the consent agenda or to set any items aside for separate consideration.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we move the consent agenda items A through I.
Yes. Be approved.
To be approved. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Who seconded that? Oh, Mr. Holman. Okay. Thank you, sir. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda in total. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3557 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3537 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the zoning map from A Agricultural District to PUD Planned Unit Development District, a 4-acre tract of land located north of the existing Foxwood Springs development in Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
I move that we approve Bill 3557, First Amendment of the Brookside 10th Development Agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3557. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3559 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3559 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending the fiscal year 2020 budget to create a benefits specialist position in the Administration-Human Resources Department and Division.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Eakey to make a staff report on this item.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. The item before council will amend the FY20 budget to remove the administrative assistant from the Human Resources Division on the organizational chart and will replace that position with a benefits specialist. This position is important for the management of the city's health, dental, vision, and ancillary benefit programs. As the organization continues to grow, it's important that we continue to professionally manage these programs for all of our employees and ensure that we remain an employer of choice in the region. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? I know we've talked about this subject before at work session, but does anybody have any questions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
I move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3559, Budget Amendment for the Benefits Specialist, Human Resources Department.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3559. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Now move into public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and keep your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. I see no one moving forward, so we'll move on to mayor-council communication. And, oh gosh, where will I start? Ms. Abdelgawad, we'll start with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I just want to take a minute to recognize our volunteers that we've reappointed to our different boards and commissions. Melinda Howdy-Shell to the Park Board, Rich Bartow to the Park Board, Steve Troutman to the Park Board, Robert Berry to the Arts Commission, Patricia Setzer to the Arts Commission, and David Forrester to the Tree Board. Thanks to all of those folks. Almost all of them are reappointments for agreeing to do that job again. It's an important job for the city, and that's all I've got. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just echo Councilman Abdugawat's comments. Thank you very much for all those that volunteer for our city for the various boards and commissions that we have, and congratulations to those that have been selected to come back and help us out again. And I believe at least one individual who is new. So again, to those folks, congratulations and thank you for your assistance.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Holman.
I don't have anything this evening, sir. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Barber.
I would just concur with the thanking of the citizens, board and commission volunteers, and we've got a couple, and only people in the audience tonight are a couple of our people that serve on our board, so thank them for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything either other than to echo what everybody else is saying. I've always said that a major part of our success in the city is the volunteers that we get.
Absolutely.
And the hours that they put in. So I want to thank all of them for not only having served before, but willing to come back and serve again.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing this evening.
All right. Mr. Serco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wanted to thank Mr. Murdoch for his COVID report. It was much better than the research that I was able to do today about our locality and our county, and so very well done. Appreciate that. And wanted to thank all the people that are serving on our boards, volunteers. And I also wanted to thank Representative John Lewis for his lifetime of service to the United States. Pretty much my whole life and a few years before I was born. So huge, huge impact on our country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I also want to thank the members that stepped up and offered to serve again in their positions, and congratulations, Mr. Forrester, on his appointment to the Tree Board. And really, that's all I have tonight. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Townsend.
Move that we adjourn the City Council session for July 27th.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, sir. Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn from the regular meeting of the Raymore City Council. Anyone else have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.